I don't always get to do this when this is done at the library in person, because there are so many people from the library who work on this project who vie for the opportunity to introduce Joyce. But this time around, it's me. And I just want to say that the Public Library in Ann Arbor has many partners and has had many partners over a long period of time, but none have been as steadfast, as positive, as contributory as Joyce. And the work that we do with the Cultural and Historical Museum, she brings it a life that helps bring something off of a page into our world through stories and photos that stay there for everyone to see today, tomorrow, way out into the future, long when all of us are gone. For that, she should be acknowledged. That vision, understanding the story needs to be told, and how to get it to the public library. We're so pleased about this. So I bring you Joyce Hunter. Welcome. Thank you all.
I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon. And one of the first things I want to do is to share the museum's mission. And our mission is to collect the documents, the artifacts, and the stories of African Americans in this community, and then pass it on to the greater community. This Living Oral History Project began with a joint meeting with the museum and the Ann Arbor District Library, followed by us beginning to interview African Americans that had lived in the Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area all or most of their lives. A few years later, we got a grant to do an exhibit. And so we created an exhibit that was on display in Ypsilanti District Library, Ann Arbor District Library, and it is now on display at 1528 Pontiac Trail. We plan to continue displaying this exhibit and also treat it like a traveling exhibit. We also now have our Living Oral History digital collection, and we have over 2,000 items in the digital collection. And Heidi Morris from the Ann Arbor District Library will share that a little bit later. So once again, I just want to thank you for coming. I want to now introduce our interviewees. And so I would ask if you would just wave your hand. So the first person I'd like to introduce is William Hampton. Okay, does everybody see William? Okay, you can be on, if you want to, you can put yourself on a gallery view. Mrs. Mitchell has not joined us, and Mrs. Mitchell turned 99 this year. So I don't think she's going to be joining us, but we will hear parts of her interview. Don Simon. Don, could you wave your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Harold Simon. They're brothers. Harold, can you wave your hand? Is Harold on mute?
You see him?
You see him? Okay. All right, good. I can't, but good. And David Rutledge.
Glad to be here.
Oh, good to see you, David.
Thank you.
All right. So one thing I failed to do after Josie finished her remarks was to thank her for those wonderful remarks. So thank you, Josie.
You're very welcome.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt. And what we're going to do now is we're going to see excerpts from the interviews. All the interviews were over an hour, maybe hour 15, hour 20 minutes. But you're going to see little excerpts from those interviews. And at a later time, you can go back and listen to the whole interview, which will be online. Either you can listen to it orally or you can just read it. So I'm going to ask people to go ahead and mute themselves if you're not muted. And then Matt is going to come on with the clips from the interviews. Matt.
Well, we're a very close-knit family in a very small shotgun house. Grew up on Fuller Street. which was all 99.9% black neighborhood, ran along the railroad tracks, where, quite frankly, the white families did not choose to live because at that time, locomotives come by with a bunch of noise and black soot coming out of the engines because they burn coal. On a beautiful snowy day, the train come by and you go outside, you got black soot all in the snow. So that's where I grew up, along that street, Fuller Street, between State Street and Glen Ave.
My father's family were farmers. My mom's parents were, I would say her father was an entrepreneur. Papa, we called him. His name was Calloway, and it was unusual that he owned a store in that day and time. We're talking about late 40s, early 50s in a rural part of Alabama.
The people in my community would have what they call dinner on the ground. And we had that during revival times in church. Everybody would get together and bring a different dish to church, and we would all eat outside. I remember that being an exciting time for me as a little boy, because at that time I hadn't started first grade yet. So I had limited access to large gatherings of kids. And dinner on the ground for us was like a big picnic where everybody got together. There was no checking to make sure everything was sanitized. And we had a great time. We always did that once a year during the revival time.
When I came to Michigan to visit with my sister and my niece, her daughter, for a vacation. I was 22 years old then. And it was like I came here in September and I stayed. Oh, first of all, maybe I shouldn't say this. I didn't have any money to go back home. And
so you stayed?
What?
And you stayed?
Yeah, I wrote my mother and father a letter to send for me, and they did. But by the time the mail could get from here, there, and then them sending me the money to come home, I had gotten a job working at Cunningham Drugstore.
I remember then, closer to my teenage years, we'd go up to Ottawa, Michigan, which is a black resort up northern part of Michigan. We did that for about 3 or 4 years for about a week. That was kind of exciting. That was a highlight. We roller skate and eat out and go down and swim. And I remember black entertainment was really prevalent up there. They had a club called the Flamingo. For those who've been around long enough, they will remember the Ottawa. It was jumping.
Wild Goose Lake is a lake that was formed by residents, black residents, exclusively. People in that area would call it the Negro Lake because it was extensively blacks living there. And it started in the 40s. And families from Detroit, from Chicago, from the Ann Arbor area would go ahead and they got property, they built homes there, and they established a neighborhood that stayed predominantly black all the way up until about the year 2000.
So in terms of Wild Goose Lake, does your family still have a place there?
Sure do. Yeah, we've had it for 45 years. It's a summer, basically, residence although it's winterized, we do go out there 3 or 4 weekends during the winter months, and we keep it heated, and so we still have a home out there. My wife's family, who's really the family that helped establish the lake back in the 40s and 50s, they have homes out there along with other cousins. They were instrumental in financially backing the project and very instrumental in dividing the property lines up, and also instrumental in kind of deciding, who was going to go ahead and purchase and build there at the time.
So they kind of was in charge of that project at the beginning.
Yes, his name was Charles Baker.
Okay.
And that's my wife's grandfather. Mr. Baker was a co-founder of the foundry over off of Plymouth Road and Maiden Lane area. He employed predominantly black employees, and they built most of the gutters that you see in the Ann Arbor area on the streets where water will drain down into the system and then flow into our streams and into the Huron River. He and another gentleman by the name of Cook were the two that organized and built that establishment.
I attended school in Chattanooga. It was from my elementary days through my high school days. I only attended schools that were populated by blacks, black kids, black faculty, and in Chattanooga, the schools did not desegregate until the year I graduated. That was 1963. I treasure and value the education that I got in that segregated setting. And the reason I do is because the teachers were, it was like more than their job. It was like that they were on a mission to somehow instill in us that we had to be better than the white population in order just to get to where they may be. I went to college because I had a fantastic counselor who told me about college and instilled in me the will to want to do that.
Attended Jones Elementary School, which is now called Community High, I guess. It was a predominantly black attended school. The students, teachers, to my knowledge, I remember 3 male teachers, and that was it. All the rest of my teachers were female. I did get introduced for the first time, and he left an everlasting memory, and it gave me the encouragement and made me begin to think a little bit as I look back on it that maybe I could do it also. Was my black teacher at Jones Elementary, and that was Harry Mile.
Once again, I was about 12 or 13 years of age. My mother wanted me to go around to Dascola Barber Shop, and I don't mind calling them out because my regular barbers weren't cutting my hair the way she wanted to cut. So at the time, I had a head full of hair, straight hair, and I went in and sit there to get the haircut. I sit there for well over an hour. I looked at the clock. A couple of people came in, and they let them get in the chair. I said, well, maybe they had an appointment. Finally, the barber called me to his side and said, what can I do for you, young man? I said, I'm here to get a haircut. He put his tools down and took me by the shoulder and walked me outdoors and pointed me back up towards 4th and 5th Ave and says, "We don't touch your hair here. We're not cutting your hair. So you best go down there and make a left-hand turn, and they'll cut your hair down there." I said, "No. That's where I always get it cut. Well, we're not touching your hair."
But I tell you what, there was a head shop. I don't remember the name on State Street years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Black people could go in, but you were not allowed to try on their hats.
Oh, wow.
But
in Ann Arbor.
Yes, but I don't remember the name of the store.
Mm-hmm.
But you could go in there and buy a hat, but you could not try it on.
In the north.
In Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And I worked in a black barber shop, shining shoes. And one day the barber asked me to go down to the corner drugstore and get him a sandwich. I did that, ordered the sandwich, and sat down at the counter to wait on it. It was not long before a man came up to me, identified himself as a store manager, and said to me that I couldn't sit there. I said to him that I had placed an order like everybody else, and I was just waiting on my order. Before I could finish the last part of this, what I wanted to tell him, he pushed me off of the stool I was sitting on. And so not only was it humiliating, it was I can still just feel how degrading that was. Nobody came to my rescue. While I was there on the floor, a couple of thoughts ran through my mind. One was I wanted to get even with this guy somehow, but he was much bigger than I was. And so the second thought was this guy had the authority, or perceived he had the authority to do what he did to me. And so I wanted to know where that authority came from. I wanted to know where the rules got made that allowed him to do what he did to me, with there being no consequences. Nobody paid enough much attention at all. And so I stood up and my sandwich was ready, but I placed additional orders of anything I could think of, and stood and waited for them to prepare it. And they did. Brought it to me, and I said, "That's okay. I don't want any of this stuff." And I walked out. It was my way of getting back at them for the humiliation. But the other thing was this idea of where the rules were made. To this day, I trace my commitment to public service back to that moment when I was pushed off this stool and laying on that floor. I, from that point on, always wanted to be where the rules were made.
And you worked at the university too, right?
24 years.
Wow. What did you do there?
I held two different things. When I first went there, I worked in housekeeping. Mm-hmm. Then I transferred into nursing. And in nursing, I worked on the contagious unit. Mm. And of course, you work with babies to adults, whoever was contagious at the university. And then I finally transferred from nursing to the laboratory as a laboratory aide.
Okay.
And I worked as a nurse's aide and then a laboratory aide. And that's when I retired after I was there. I don't know how many years, but put it all together, I was there 24 years.
Wow.
It did afford me an opportunity to launch a program here and in Arlington, Texas, that had never been done in either place before. And that program was a Section 8 subsidized housing program, which afforded low-income folks the ability to live someplace else other than conventional public housing, so they could find a place in the community, as long as the landlord accepted that, and their rent was subsidized through us, and we offered self-improvement program for them. We offered subsidy assistance with a meal program, and it was a feel-good experience for me because I participated in the origination of those two programs.
I was a special education teacher working with the most difficult at-risk youth in the state of Michigan at the Maxey Boys School. They were the young men that the schools couldn't deal with in Wayne County, up in Flint, Grand Rapids. The schools couldn't deal with them. The parents couldn't deal with them. So they were committed by the courts to the institutions that dealt with.
Again, my college education, my degree was in physical education and recreation with a teaching certificate. So that led me into the field, of course, of teaching. And as I also mentioned, I played 4 years of basketball at the university and got interested in the coaching aspect of the game. So I ended up, after graduating, becoming a grad assistant right away. And for a year and a half, worked on my master's and coached a freshman basketball at Eastern Michigan, taught in the physical education department. And that got me started in both teaching and coaching.
The difference between me and my brother, Joyce, quite frankly, is this. And Joyce, you can identify with this. You are in a public setting. You have young people that come through the grade school, junior high, and high school, and when they graduate, they go out and have more success experience. I worked in an institution where there's very little success. Probably 70% of the young men I dealt with ended up in Jackson prison or dead, one or the other. There was times when my brother and I would go places together and the people would holler out, "Hey, coach, hey, coach." And I turned because people didn't know my name was Coach. Out at Maxey and Boys, where they call me Coach all the time, not Coach Simons. I turned my head 90% of the time if one of my brother's students that recognized him because we're in the local area.
I think the field of teaching, and maybe you would agree, it helps too. There's generally and always somebody saying hi to you, and how are you, and how's your day going, and that type of thing. So it's been great living in this community.
Overall, Ann Arbor community is a community to always come back to. I've visited other cities many times. It always come back to Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is a very high level. Diversity has improved. Social life, as people want it, is there. University, higher education is there. Ann Arbor has everything to offer for you except a warm winter. Other than that, it has everything. If our winter was just 6 or 7 weeks shorter, it would help a whole lot.
Okay. Well, it started at Pioneer High because my grandnephew, he's a Keith, because Louise was my niece, so he'd be my grandson.
Right.
Okay, Keith Bostic, he was a football player, and he was recruited and went to the University of Michigan, and he played football. And we would go to the games. I got carried away.
What do you mean you got carried away?
Because we were all pulling for whatever team he was on, and he was on Pioneer. And from Pioneer, he played for Michigan, so we was pulling for Michigan. And I'd be going with his mother and father and other family members, my grandmother. We'd go pulling for Keith and then. So that's how I became a football fan.
So Keith got you into the football business.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so Keith went on to play professional ball, do you?
Yes, he was. He went to the Houston Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many years he played from them, and then he went on to some other one, and then ended his career. But yeah, he played football for quite a few years, and he lives in Texas.
After my son passed, I set up a scholarship, and his name is under the Donald E. Simons Fund. It's a scholarship to help those students that don't qualify for free or reduced lunch programs to help pay their $250 to play sports here in Ann Arbor. And it's still at Ann Arbor Huron High, and it's set up through the Ann Arbor Community Foundation. Ann Arbor Community Foundation, yes, which is on the corner of Main Street and, where is that, Catherine?
I joined after marrying your uncle. I belong to the Eastern Stars.
Oh, okay.
And I am still a paid-up member.
Wonderful. So did you hold any positions with the Eastern Star?
No, I was just on the Star. I was Ada. You if you don't know the Eastern Star, you don't know, but it's 5 points.
Okay.
And I was one of the points.
Okay. What did it take to get on the point?
No, you had to, first of all, your husband, brother, or father had to be a Mason. I was on the points. You know, like that star?
Yes.
With that 1 point.
Uh-huh.
And it's 5 points to a star.
Uh-huh.
And I was on 1 point as Ada.
Okay. And the Ada means what?
It's in the Bible.
Okay.
Esther.
Uh-huh.
You ever read the book of Esther?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes.
And they tell you about the 5 wise women.
Oh, so Ada was one of the 5 wise women.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm telling you.
Now that's enough.
I've been president of NAACP since 2005. I am proud to say that even during this great pandemic, we still had a Juneteenth celebration. I think this year's Juneteenth celebration, which was our 26th, may have been more valuable than any one we've ever had. This year's Juneteenth celebration was called the Juneteenth Liberation Day, and we were able to march along the border to Wheeler Park this year. We had a video presence for our interaction with that. We had coverage from Channel 7 News. We were interviewed by CTN. And it caused more interest in the NAACP Ann Arbor than we've ever had before. We believe that things are changing right now faster than they've ever changed in America. I think that the Black Lives Matter theme is being looked at in a different kind of way, because ever since right before Juneteenth, the Black Lives Matter flag has flown proudly over City Hall here in Ann Arbor. And I was talking to some of my contacts still down in Ann Arbor yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I was told that they was getting some pushback from some people who are pushing back anonymously. Okay, so I was on the Human Rights Commission video chat last night, talking about that issue, talking about the statement from the NAACP and reiterating that statement. And one of the things I said was the same thing I said at City Council. All lives do matter. I think everybody knows that. But until and unless Black lives stop being marginalized, all life will not matter. And I think that the the occurrences of the last several months have highlighted that?
I would tell the younger generation, as I tell everybody, to try to treat others as you want to be treated. Just treat somebody the way you want to be treated. Now, maybe that's different today than it was back in the day, but that's still something I want the youngsters to do. And don't forget, I don't know what you mean by youngsters, but let's vote. So I would want them to vote, too.
Please, 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 please vote. I mean, there's lots of folks who look like us who were not allowed to vote, and some of those people died to win the right to vote. And Fannie Lou Hamer, who was a little-known person in African-American history, when she got involved, she said, quote, "I didn't even know I could vote," because somebody told her that black folks couldn't and shouldn't vote. But we deserve this right. We've earned it, so please vote.
I'll tell the younger generation to keep connected to your people in your peer group that are positive or appear to be positive, because your roots and the people you grow up with become more important the older you become.
Yeah, that's what Mama used to say. You got to learn how to work, because Mama may not be with you always. Mm-hmm. I had to learn to work, and they're trying to help me out. And she made them get out of the way. I had to learn on my own.
Mm-hmm. When I was in the legislature and in all of my public life, I've always tried to imagine myself, no matter what the circumstances, I've tried to pretend that I was walking in the other person's shoe and see what would I do? How would I think? How would I believe? And that has helped me to understand people who even sit across the aisle from me, of different political persuasions than me. And so I think that ought to always be the goal, our goal collectively.
Okay, so that concludes just the snippets of the interviews. There's a lot more to these interviews, wonderful information that was shared. So I do encourage you, when you get a chance, to log on and listen to the interviews in their entirety. So now what we're going to do, Heidi Morris from Ann Arbor District Library is going to come forth and share a little bit about the digital collection. Heidi.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's so wonderful to see all of you here and to come together to view this video. So this is the main page for the AACHM Living Oral History Project, hosted on AADL's website. And here is where you can see each of the 7 phases. So here are our 5 participants for this year, along with the drawings that Josie had mentioned at the beginning. And so you can click on any one of these names to view the video and learn more about each person. But what I especially want to highlight too is something that you can also explore is the Living Oral History digital collection, which is the collection that we launched last year for the Phase 6 launch, a collaboration between AADL and AACHM. The digital collection highlights 6 main categories that the African American Cultural and Historical Museum highlighted in their exhibit about this oral history project: community centers, education, housing, employment, entrepreneurship, and faith. And I want to show you a little bit about how to navigate this digital collection. But first, I want to say there's over 2,500 items, unique items in this collection, Last year when we launched, there was about 2,000. Over the course of the past year, we've added about 500, including over 100 featuring the participants from this year's phase. So we're really proud of that. And I'd like to just walk you through the employment section, because so many of our narrators this year, teachers, coaches, public servants. So you can click on View Historical Materials to see just how many items we have for each category. I like to use this gallery view. You can see kind of more of a preview of what each item will take you to. So we have Mr. Harold Simons as the Huron High basketball coach, Mr. Rutledge being celebrated for a Community Service Award, being Citizen of the Year in the year 2000. We can see other participants from previous years, as well as others in the community. So if we go back to the main page, I also want to show you how to navigate to view historical materials, newspaper articles, photos, other materials about each participant. So for example, Mr. Donald Simons has generously shared with us some photos and articles and other materials about his family and his life. So I wanted to just highlight that. So here we have some photos. He shared an article he wrote about a basketball team that he was a part of, Sanford Security basketball team. So here you can read it in full as it loads. And you can actually, sometimes each item will have a little related link, so you can see a little bit more about related materials, such as this photo. So I want to thank Mr. Simons for sharing this with us. We're always eager to highlight materials from the Ann Arbor and surrounding community, and especially are excited to work with the African American Cultural and Historical Museum to bring these items online to share with you. So that's about it for me. Actually, there's one other photo in here that I think would be fun to share because it highlights some previous folks from other phases. So I'll end there and be happy to answer any questions about this too later on.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. As you can see, there's a lot to that collection. We're so excited to have a living oral history digital collection. We also want to thank those that have contributed. And also what happened when Heidi pulled this together was if somebody mentioned something in their interview, she went back and oftentimes found pictures of the items that they mentioned. We heard a lot about the Dunbar Center. We heard a lot about the Black Business District in Ann Arbor and Ypsi. So there was information that she gathered about that as well. So we're really excited about this part as well as our whole project with Ann Arbor District Library. So at this time, we're going to open it up for questions. But first, I'm going to see, let me see how much time we have. We have about 10 minutes. I'm going to open it up, first of all, to see if any of those that were interviewed for this phase would like to share anything. And then we'll have a short Q&A. Any of those that were interviewed this time like to make any comments? No? Okay. Is that Don trying to say? Don, you're muted.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone that was involved with creating and following through with this project. And I want to say that Joyce has responded to every request I made, which is a rarity in today's society. And I think I tapped on her once a week and she always got back with me with answers. I thank her and the library and all the staff involved with putting together, which I think is a very important historical piece.
Okay, thanks, Don. Anybody else? Any other interviewees want to say anything? Okay, William?
Yeah, I think you guys did a great job of putting this together. I think everybody appreciates you. I just want to make two comments, not about me, but about the fact that on the faith on your website, my brother-in-law, Dion DeMero, is highlighted there. He's the person in the middle. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing is that I was pleased that the lady mentioned one of only 2 books in the Bible named for women, and that's Esther and Ruth. One she highlighted was Esther. That's my wife's name. And historically, had she lived, the day would have been Esther Rose's 100th birthday on this day. And just in case you guys don't know who she was the first African-American woman who insisted that her leading role on the show had a husband as well.
Okay, thank you, William. Anybody, any other interviewees? Okay, David.
I'd just like to thank all of those who were responsible for putting this project together. It was a significant honor for me to be part of this, and particularly to be part of it with the other interviewees. You can see just from listening to William Hampton's last comment what a wealth of historical information that he has. And so I'm proud to call him fraternity brother, in addition to just brother, and all of the things that he does in the community. I could not end my comments without saying what I said to you initially, Joyce, was that my wife passed away in 2015, and this interview and all that I have said, I've dedicated to her and the wonderful life that she lived as a teacher.
Thank you, David. I knew your wife and a wonderful person. So any other interviewees before we open it up? Oh, Harold, go ahead, Harold.
I'd like to thank you, Joyce, and Joetta, who had a tendency to be in contact with me on a regular basis throughout my career in the Ann Arbor area, and especially right now. And also am very happy that apparently enough people, or a lot of people, got out and voted. As we had said, and the announcement was made yesterday, how the outcome is expected to be. And some of us are happy and some others are not. Thank you again, Joyce, Joetta, and all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Harold. I think that's all the interviewees, is that right? Did I miss anybody? So I'm gonna look to Joetta. Joetta also, and I do the bulk of the interviews. I'm gonna see if she has anything she'd like to add.
Well, I'm just happy to be a part of this project, and we just keep getting more and more history for people to view, and I hope people take advantage of and click on and listen to the folks that have been interviewed and gain all that good history. And thank you for this group of interviews and your wonderful stories.
Okay, thank you, Joetta. So now we have just a few minutes for a couple of questions, and then Josie is going to close us out. So any questions? I see Dale.
Yes. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
One thing that was confusing to me, and I sent a note to the library about it, not knowing the history, pardon the pun, of this project. When I first saw the logo, I didn't come really to the conclusion that it was a Black history, because the name of the site is non-discriminatory, I should say. So I was kind of confused, but then I saw the pictures of the individuals, and so then I kind of knew that they were all African American, so I kind of drew a conclusion that maybe that's what it was. But I think at first blush, if someone comes to that flag, on the Facebook of the library, it should be a little bit more distinctive as to who these featured people are. I mean, it looked like it was somewhat confusing to me that this was supposed to be, that was not an exclusive project.
Thank you, Dale. We'll talk to Joyce and look and see if we've had any more comments that way. But thank you very much for your feedback. We appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah. I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Edward Bostic, my great Aunt Dimples.
Right.
And I have stories of Coach Simons. I wish Coach Simons was at Pioneer High School. I wish I could have played for Coach Simons basketball.
Okay.
I have so much love for those men in Wild Goose Lake, the Foundry, Wheeler Park, all of that growing up here in Ann Arbor. I'm 62 years old now, and this is a beautiful thing. My great Aunt Dimples is very, very special. I'm so happy you guys put this on. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. I don't know if people heard this if you hadn't logged on, but she turned 99 years old this year. Is that right?
That is correct.
Right.
She will be 100 years old, August 2nd, 2021, if God is willing. And God is willing if you put in the time. He's put the time in.
Right.
I love that. She's the salt of the earth.
Right.
In fact, most of the people that you had on there, with the science and everything, I've been out there at the boys training school playing basketball out there. My brother is, he's my younger brother.
Okay.
My father is Frank Vaughn. We grew up playing sports in this town. I am very proud of what you guys put on. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Any other comment before we wrap it up? Well, I want to say again, is there comment, Kenyatta? You unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kenyatta Tucker. I am a teacher over at Huron High School, and I'm also a board member on the and just hearing these stories, I just want to thank all of you all for just sharing your stories. I am deeply inspired as a middle-aged Black man, if you would, or African-American man. I'm at that point now where I can kind of see, I'm in the in-between point between working with youth and kind of thinking about my own legacy, and also about thinking, what can I do?
Great.
I think
that's wonderful.
Did we lose Kenyatta? I think we lost him.
Joyce, I have a question.
I'm looking to see who has a question. I'm sorry.
Faye has a question, Joyce. Hey, I'm wondering if you guys have given any thought to how we can use these oral histories for our young people in elementary, middle, high school. I think that it's just so valuable that they can see the people they probably see in various walks of their lives to really hear their stories. I just think it would be inspirational, as well as increasing their sense of self-worth and self-confidence.
Yes.
Okay, for that, we, am I muted? We have done that. We've actually done some work with this with Skyline High School, and we're in conversation. We did some things with, we're in conversation with Emerson, as well as a couple other schools. So I'll keep you posted on that. We can talk more about that at some point. Okay, thank you though. So we were at that time now, so I'm gonna turn it over to Josie to kind of wrap it up. So Josie.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you all again. This was pretty much probably record attendance. And so for one of these events, and we're really pleased that everyone joined us and you came with your questions. As the director of the library and as part of a partner and with the African American Cultural Historical Museum, the stories are everything, and making those stories heard and preserved and for the future it's a huge part of what libraries do. But it's so important, these stories, and today. And I think without going any further than Mr. Hampton went, today I think we know how important it is that stories get told and stories get listened to and stories inspire and stories move people to do things they need and think about doing. And for us at the library, having even a little bit of positive in that is amazing. We thank you for your courage, coming forward, speaking out, sharing in this way, and letting us be a part of that. Thank you all very, very much. And to everyone attending, have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce.
Everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.